Don has been with the institution for over 20 years, having served as Executive Vice President, Vice President for Education, Dean of Academic Affairs, Information Technology, Division Chair, and as a computer networking technology instructor. He did not mention his work as a custodian at Ranken as well. So anyway, we left it off the list. But Don has a Master's of Business Administration and a Bachelor of Science in Computer Science from Webster University, and an Associate of Technology in Computer Networking Technology from Ranken Technical College. So please welcome, a very warm Boone County welcome for Don Polh.
So there's quite an expectation there, right? He said I'm standing between all of you and lunch, right? So I'll try to make this brief. So, you know, I'll go back to something that Governor Parsons said. You know, this is a perfect example. This project is a perfect example of education at the secondary and the higher education level, industry and government all working together. And that is truly the sense of community, right? So I'd like to start out by saying, you know, thank you to everyone in this community, the surrounding area, for making Ranken and myself feel so welcome. Again, we're proud to be a part of this project, and we're so excited for what it brings. So my job is to tell you a little bit about Ranken, especially those of you who don't know much about Ranken. And if you know a lot about Ranken, by all means, hopefully I can answer some more questions. If not, I have two great people that know a lot more than I do about Ranken, and they can answer the questions if I can't answer it. So when we say Ranken Technical College, you know, the best way to kind of introduce Ranken to anybody is really to talk about our mission, because we're very mission driven. And that mission states that Ranken Technical College is a private, non-for-profit, degree-granting institution of higher learning whose primary mission is to provide the comprehensive education training necessary to prepare students for employment and advancement of variety of technical career fields. What does it all mean? Well, in a nutshell, it means we prepare a technical workforce. That's what we do. Now, we go back to that mission. Yeah, we're private, non-for-profit. A lot of people get confused with some of the for-profit proprietary schools. That's not us. We're private, non-for-profit. In fact, we've got a very rich history. People say, well, who was this David Ranken person? Believe it or not, we've been in existence since 1907. So we've been doing this for quite some time. David Ranken had a problem that I hope each and every person in this room and online has. He had so much money, he had no idea what he was going to do with it. He couldn't possibly spend it before he died, didn't know what to do with it. So he went to the mayor of the city of St. Louis at the time, Rollo Wells. He said, you got any idea what I can do with my money? And the mayor came back to him with this idea of creating a school to teach the dignity of labor, that there's nothing wrong with working for a living, nothing wrong with working with your hands. David Ranken liked that idea. He gave his entire fortune upon death to do just that. In fact, students pay about 75% of what it actually costs to educate them. The other 25% still comes from that endowment fund, along with donations, in-kind gifts. You know, as we said, we're private, non-for-profit as well. We are an institution of higher learning. We're accredited by the same accrediting agency that accredits University of Missouri, Mizzou, and all those. All the colleges and universities within the Midwest region of the United States, they also accredit Ranken. So when a student is earning a certificate or a degree from Ranken, it's an accredited degree that they're earning. Now, the rest of that mission, providing the comprehensive education training necessary to prepare students for employment and advancement, right? That's what we're about, right? When people say Ranken, if you know what Ranken's about, they think of technical careers. We actually have about 37 different programs that are grouped into 5 core divisions that include manufacturing, construction, information technology, electrical, and automotive. If you want to become a doctor or a lawyer, there's other great institutions that do just that. That's not Ranken. We're very focused on technical careers. Now, that mission that I spoke of, we actually carry that out with a 3-part educational formula. Of course, we're known for technical education, so that's, of course, 1/3 of our educational formula. Just when people hire our graduates or when people come to Ranken, they expect to leave technically competent. And that's very important, and that's the case. Second piece is general education. That's the second piece. Why do you think we teach general education at Ranken? Anyone? I'll have to warn you, and he said this in my bio, I used to teach. So, you know, if you don't answer, that means I go into starting to call on people. And I know there's 2 people with Ranken logos on there, so they by all means should know that, right? So why do y'all think we do General education. Transferability, absolutely. You know, we said we're accredited by the Higher Learning Commission, so, you know, quote unquote, to be a real college, right? That's important. And that's a true statement. However, that's not really why we do it. We do it because industry says they want employees who can read, write, and communicate. They want employees who have an appreciation for lifelong learning, realizing that this is just the beginning, right? If you're going into technical education, it's going to constantly change, and we want employees who appreciate that and who are willing to continually learn. So we actually do general education because industry tells us. In fact, you'll find out that everything we do is industry driven. What we decide to teach is industry driven. What we decide to cover with general education is industry driven. So those are two parts of that educational formula: technical education, general education. I mentioned there was a third part to that educational formula, 3 equal parts, and we call that work ethic. And that's not to say that other educational institutions don't have work ethic, by no means, but we do say that the work ethic component is unique to Ranken in the sense that we actually give a grade on the student's transcript for what we define as work ethic. We define it as the employability skills that every employer wants an employee, right? We actually have 5 core work ethic traits that include professionalism, the ability to get along with others, positive attitude and approach, respect for workplace structure, honesty. In other words, we've actually had students who have went through the entire technical piece. They've become technically competent. They've met the general education requirements, but because they did not meet that work ethic requirement, they didn't graduate from Ranken. That's how serious we take it. Why do we do it? Again, because that's what industry wants. We're industry driven. So technical education, general education, and work ethic is so very, very important. Now, a lot of people will say, okay, well, why Ashland? Why this? Just to give you a little idea, like I said, we've actually been doing this in St. Louis since 1907. It was a gift to the city of St. Louis. Again, as I said, the mayor came to David Ranken with this idea of creating a school to teach the dignity of labor. He liked it. We've done that. About 14 years ago, we actually opened up in Wentzville. Again, why? Industry. We're expanding that to Troy. Why? Industry and the school, the secondary school system. And Ashland is really no different, right? You've got to have industry that will support it. We have to make sure that we're doing what industry demands. And at the same time, we want to make sure that students know that there's nothing wrong with working with your hands for a living, right? There's nothing wrong with going into a type of career. In fact, it kind of highlights, I'll go back to what Governor Parson said again. You know, he's at an event and he met a young lady that was excited and he asked why. And he was a little shocked when she said, oh, because I got to weld, because I got to try welding. And yes, Garrett, we will teach you how to weld, I promise you, right? I mean, we can do that. I can't do that. The faculty tell me that I can't weld, but we do have experts that can teach how to weld. But anyway, that was the first opportunity that young lady had at welding. And that's the problem. There's not enough exposure at an earlier age. And I realize, you know, it becomes tough, especially, you know, give all the superintendents a lot of credit because there's so much that they have to do to meet all the requirements. The days get shorter, the requirements get longer, and yet at the same token, if something has to give, it's usually the vocational, the trades, the technical, the whatever you want to call it. That is usually the component that gives at that level. And they say, oh, well, they'll get it from someplace else. And if those kids don't have that someplace else, whether it be at home, whether it be at an internship, or whether it be on the job, if they don't have that, they're never going to be exposed to it. So when you say, well, do you want to become a welder? Do you want to become a carpenter? Do you want to become an electrician? Do you want to become an instrumentation process control technician? A lot of kids don't even have a clue what that is. They don't have a clue what that is. But yet that same technology is what's being put into all of the farm equipment today to allow for the seeds and all of the chemicals to be automatically distributed so we can grow the crops in the most efficient way. If the crops are even being put in the ground, right? There's aquaponics and hydroponics and all these other stuff that's going on right now. Again, technology is changing. So it's so important that we embed ourselves with great partners at the secondary school level, not to just get them to be Ranken students. Of course, that's what we want. We loved it. But honestly, Our purpose is to at least expose them to technical careers. Let them know about the opportunities, and then let them make a choice where they want to go. By all means, we're strong supporters of education. We're strong supporters of higher education. We're strong supporters of bachelor's degrees. We actually offer 2. And we also realize there is a great need for engineers. There's no reason why you can't start in high school, get exposed to technical education, get exposed to Ranken, get exposed to an associate degree, get exposed to a certificate, get exposed to a credential, and then continue to build upon that and turn that into a bachelor's degree, turn that into a master's degree, turn it into a doctorate degree, right? So we just want to make sure that everybody has that experience and that exposure. So the reason why Ashland, a lot of people say, well, why did you choose that? Ashland chose us. We're so happy that you all did, because ultimately we see the value in this community. We want to be a part of the community. We also want to see the economic development happen. As Governor Parson said, right here in the state of Missouri. It is so difficult to woo big companies into an area. And I've sat in a lot of those meetings, and they ask, where's the technical workforce going to come from? What is the answer for that? How do we retrain our existing? In fact, what we do at Ranken, a lot of people, we have what we call that day school program, and that's what we talk about most, especially when we talk about the high schools. What that area does of Ranken, what we quote unquote sell in that area, is we increase a population in a particular technical career. So you need more auto mechanics, you need more carpenters, you need more welders. We'll partner with, again, great school systems, great community groups, and we'll take people that are really not in that career, and we'll give them the skill set necessary in technical education, general education, work ethic, to prepare them to go into an entry-level slot in that particular chosen technical career. Thus, of course, again, creating more people in that particular sector. That's just one thing we do, though. The other thing we do is we retrain an existing workforce. Think about electricians. My gosh, these codes change quicker than I can even keep up with. So how do you take an existing electrician and retrain them with the latest and greatest national electrical code to keep you all safe, right? We do that retraining as well. And then the third thing we do is customized workforce solutions. So you may have a piece of equipment. Maybe it's your site, maybe it's at the school, maybe it's our site, maybe it's right here at this wonderful YMCA facility. What an amazing facility this is. And we'll go through and customize that training solution to meet industry needs. So again, our goal is to be a community partner, to come in and figure out what exactly you need. And I know that Dan and Shannon spent a lot of time on those meetings and hearing that, and then figure out how we can be a part of the solution. We're not in it to shut other schools down. We're not in it to say we're better than this or better. By no means. We love partners. We love other schools. We love being a part of the solution and finding out what we can do to enhance what you've already got going on here in Ashland and the surrounding areas. It's a great community. So with that, I think I'll ask if there are any questions, and then Fred's going to throw some difficult questions at me. I hope he got rid of all the hardest questions with James. So thanks for taking the hard questions, right? Hopefully he doesn't throw any of those at my way. But does anybody have any questions for me concerning Ranken or anything that I can play a role in helping answer?
Tom, can you talk about the partnership with in St. Louis? You've got outreach programs and opportunities for kids as young as 6th grade. Can you talk about those programs?
Yeah. Sure. So Chris asked a question about outreach. You know, again, early programs. What is Ranken doing? What have we already done in the city of St. Louis, for example, regarding outreach? Again, we know it's very, very important to introduce students to technical education at a very early age. I will tell you, we've got a great plumbing department at St. Louis, but I will tell you, most of the students in our plumbing department are plumbers because mom, dad, uncle, aunt, grandma, grandpa, uncle, they do a plumber. You don't see too many people sitting in high school class that have never been related to a plumber saying, I want to be a plumber. And a lot of it's just because they don't understand what it is. There's this facade out there about what a plumber does. Quite honestly, we all rely upon the plumber for the health of our nation. We absolutely do. And I'll tell you some of the tools that we have to buy for that department. Holy cow, expensive and high tech. I can't operate them. So it's not the plumber of yesterday. So the only way we can expose those type of careers to people that are not exposed to them through just regular interactions is to invite them to campus, invite them to schools, partner with schools, and have fun activities. So for example, summer camps. We have summer camps where we're building go-karts. They're building, in fact, we have some that are dedicated just to females. I'm going to tell you that's a concern. Over 50% of the population in the future is female, right? We're pretty proud of this. We're pretty proud of this. Our breakdown right now at Ranken is 93-7. 7% female, 93% male. And I'm going to tell you, it used to be 95-5 for the longest time. So I'm pretty proud of that, but that's not going to work. The math is not going to work for the future unless we can convince more females to get into technical education. So we have summer camps specifically geared towards females where they build life-size doll houses, right? We have summer camps where they do robotics. We sponsor robotic teams. Again, and I'm going to tell you, just because we don't do it doesn't mean we won't. It just means we haven't been asked to do it. In fact, that's the other thing that I'll tell you a little bit about Ranken, whether it be some of the interactions with the pipeline development or how we teach students. We teach students in different ways. Yes, we have the traditional approach. You come in, you sit there. Even though I'm going to tell you, we know that students, they don't learn by reading, writing, and talking about it. They learn by doing it, right? So whenever we can take that educational process and turn it into a hands-on approach, we do. Number two, whenever we can embed real world work into it, we do. We know students learn best by doing, and we know that the best way to train for work is to use real world work. So we love partnering with companies, whether we, at your location, send students out for an internship or a real world work experience, or whether you send work to us and we do that work, because we do both. We do both. Any way we can partner with companies to implement real world work for our students, we do. And again, just because we haven't been doing it doesn't mean we won't, just means we haven't been asked yet. So if you've got this crazy idea on either how to get a pipeline going so more people find out what technical education is really about, or better way to educate students, or have you thought of teaching this, by all means, we want to hear it. We absolutely want to hear it. Any other questions? Yes.
What's your students, what's the percentage of them getting a job?
So what's a percentage of them getting a job, right? So I will tell you college-wide, and like I said, we have about 37 different programs. We're grouped into 5 different divisions, 98%. I'll tell you where that 98% comes from. 98% of our students are placed within their chosen career field within 6 months of graduation. So that's not flipping burgers or bagging groceries. Those are jobs, but we don't prepare our students to go to work in those type of careers. We prepare them in technical careers. So that 98% is, again, 98% of our students go to work within their chosen technical career field within 6 months of graduation. Now, some of our programs have 100% because, again, some of them actually have that career piece built into the beginning. And I'm going to tell industry out there, all of you from industry, if you wait till the time somebody's done, and we found this out, right? We used to go to the high schools. Everybody's getting ready to graduate. So we go to the high school and say, hey, who's interested in a technical career? Come to Ranken. We got a program for you. By then, the decision was made. They've decided to do other things. They've decided to go into other careers. They're making those decisions earlier and earlier. They're making those decisions by the time they start high school. And then the high school is catered specifically towards that career they want to go to. We were too late. Industry, it's beginning to be the same way. If you're waiting till they graduate, if you're waiting till the end, you're not going to get them. Right now, we're partnering with companies to get these students, quote unquote, placed before they ever start Ranken. And then you can try them before you buy them, right? And that goes for both parties. That goes for the employer, and it also goes for the student. We all know a student that's gone through some sort of program and wasn't what they thought it was. By the time they graduate, it's like, this isn't anything what I thought it was. And then they've wasted that time. Well, we of course want to minimize that waste for the student and for the employer. So it's partnering before is really the key to go. Yes, sir.
What's the grade level to start at?
Say that once more.
What's the grade level to start at?
What's the grade level you start at? So we can take that from 2 ways. The grade level you start at from an industry perspective as far as, hey, when should I start looking for an employer? I would tell you right away. Even, again, in some of our programs are successful programs that I'll use automotive, for example. So automotive came to us, a lot of the dealerships came to us and the independents. They said, you know what, our workforce is retiring and we don't know where that next workforce is going to come from. We just don't have a clue. We said, not a worry. We got a 2-year automotive program. We'll recruit some students in and in 2 years, you'll have a workforce. And they said, 2 years, are you kidding me? That's unrealistic. We can't wait 2 years. So we started partnering those students the minute they start Ranken. Before they start Ranken, we partner them with an automotive service center and they're tied up, connected right away before they ever start. They're exposed to it. Now, from the students' perspective, as early as we can, right? So Chris mentioned middle school. We've actually done, Lego League with the robotics and all that. The earlier you start, and at least start making the connection. Oh, do you like to build Legos? Well, guess what? This is what this career is about. This is what a precision machinist does. And this is how it relates to what you're doing here. So again, it's never too early. Of course, again, it's never too early to at least expose them. So at least at the high school level, the plan is to make sure that they get exposed. Those that are interested in it, that can then start building that skill set as early as their junior, senior year. So freshman, sophomore exposure, junior, senior, start building the technical career set. But I will tell you the exposure, as Chris said, even in the middle school area, even before that is so very, very important. Great questions. Yes.
I just want to clarify something, and this may be dyslexic.
Okay.
Right?
Why am I 7 wrong?
Well, I heard that you were 93% female, 7% male. Is
No,
that the flip?
it's flipped. 93% male, 7%
Thank you.
female.
And
90
growing on the
Yep.
female
If I
side.
said that wrong, yes. That's why I'm saying we need more females. So it's 93% male, 7% female. If I screwed that up, I'm sorry about
It
that.
may
I
be
wish it was
binary.
the flip, right?
It may have been like,
Don, can you talk about scholarships and how unique is Ranken?
How unique is Ranken, right? So scholarships and unique, there's uniqueness and there's not, right? So first off, if you want to become a student at Ranken, the first thing to do is go out and fill out the federal financial aid forms, the FAFSA. And at that point in time, that tells you, okay, this is what's out there. This is what scholarships are available at. So again, since we're accredited Pell, you can use your Pell money at Ranken. You can, of course, federal financial aid, all that. Then once you have that, then we start working on the gap, right? And the gap, that's where we really rely upon, of course, the endowment fund I'll give you an idea. So just last year, we gave $2.7 million away in institutional funds to Ranken students to come to Ranken. 2.7. So yes, it's expensive. Ranken, 2.7 million in institutional funds. This year, we expect to give over 3 million in institutional funds. I will tell you this, number one, we firmly believe that everybody should have some skin in the game, right? What you receive too lightly, you esteem too lightly. So we are a firm believer that everybody should have some skin in the game, but we also believe this. If you truly can't afford, and there's a difference between won't afford and can't afford, but if you truly, as a student, can't afford, we'll figure out a way. We'll work with industry, we'll work with the community, we'll figure out a way to get you that technical education. We strongly believe in that. And that's been a key ever since we've been founded, and we strongly believe in it today. Any other questions? Yes.
You mentioned A+
Yeah.
program that's going to be effective as soon as this campus opens.
Yeah, so we do. A lot of people don't realize it. Again, you can use your A+ funds to attend Ranken. And absolutely, you'll be able to use your A+ funds to attend this as well. Yeah. We're an A+ school. Yes.
What programs specifically will be delivered?
So the easy answer to that is whatever industry dictates, right? You know, that's the easy answer. And the question was, well, what programs will you have here initially? And the easy answer is whatever industry dictates. Now, I know that industry has dictated, of course, manufacturing, construction, information technology, and healthcare. So there will be programs related specifically to that. I'll have to defer to my Dean of Academic Affairs and my Vice President for Education to talk about the specific programs that we're going to offer. But again, that's just in the beginning. I want to stress that what is needed by industry, and whatever is needed by industry, that's what we'll offer. And again, so for example, one of them will be industrial technology, industrial engineering technology. That's multi-skilled, multi-crafted. So a little bit of a lot. So we've done that for a lot of organizations where industry will say, well, I really need somebody that knows a little carpentry, that knows a little HVAC, that knows a little hydraulics, a little pneumatics, a little, and the list goes on and on and on. So in those cases, we'll customize and build that program specifically for you to determine, well, what fits your needs best. So again, our key is we really want to figure out what industry needs. Listen, you guys know what you need more than we do. Yes, we have the catalog. Yes, you can go to the website, Ranken, RANKEN.edu, and see all of the offerings. Again, just because we don't have it on there doesn't mean we won't do it. Just means we haven't been asked to do it yet. So a lot of schools will open up that catalog and say, hey, this is what we offer. If it doesn't fit you, too bad, so sad. That's not us. Let us know. If it doesn't fit, let's have a conversation and figure out what it takes to make it fit. Maybe we can do it, maybe we can't, but it starts with a conversation to figure out what is the need. Any other questions? Yes, and if you keep asking questions, then he doesn't get to ask the tough ones. So I'm glad of that. Yes, ma'am.
I was wondering, on an average, how many students do you all handle, like in the facility over there, a year? Or what are you capable of teaching?
So it really depends. We've got about 2,000 students right now spread out through our St. Louis, Perryville, and Wentzville location. Yep. That's a good idea, Fred. Repeat the question. So the question was, how many students do we handle? How many do we anticipate to handle at the location? And the answer is, well, again, college-wide right now we have about 2,000 students, depending upon, again, day, evening, St. Louis, Perryville, Wentzville, and all that. It's a little bit more difficult to answer exactly how many, depending upon exactly what the program is. So here's the thing. Number one, we're not going to substitute quality for quantity, and it's very important that if we're going to do technical education, so for example, if we do welding, it's very important that everybody gets a chance to weld. You've got to feel the heat, you got to see the sparks, you got to weld. So we're not going to put 5 students on one welder. So it really depends again upon what programs. Safety is number one, number two, quality, right? And then that will help determine the actual number of students going through the program. Good questions. Any other questions? I guess that means we turn it over to you, huh, Fred?
Well, it's my turn to ask questions. Yes, sir.
Yes.
Two-part question. How many instructors or employees do you plan to have at Ranken, Ashland? And where do you get those instructors?
So those are great questions. The question's two-part question. How many do you plan to have? And then where do you get them? So the plan to have, how many you plan to have is very, very similar to the answer with the students, right? So it depends, because I will tell you, some programs require more hands-on and more one-on-one instruction than others. So typically it leads 1 to 2 for every program that we offer. And then of course, some support staff, instructional coordinators, of course, people that will run the day-to-day operations and things like that. So you're looking at a handful, but again, that could be more or less. For example, it typically takes the more hands-on. I'll use welding again. It's more of a hands-on versus information technology. You can actually handle more students with one instructor there. So it depends. The tougher question is, where do you get them? So that's a challenge, right? So we pride ourselves in the fact that we hire industry professionals. So we hire people that know the trades, that know their technical expertise, that know they're experts at it. And at that point in time, we spend quite a bit of time turning them into instructors. And sometimes that's a challenge because we're competing against all of you right now. And again, it's a great time to be in technical education, right? If you've got a technical skill, you're sought after. We drove from St. Louis this morning. We saw signs on the billboards, help wanted, hire now, help wanted, hire now. So we have to compete with all of that to get those industry professionals, and that is tough. So if you're an industry professional and you're looking to share that wealth of knowledge and those expertise, by all means, let us know. I will tell you that we're very fortunate to have a great team of faculty and staff, but we're kind of like what you're in, the situations. People choose to retire, and we're trying to lull them and convince them to stay on, one more year. But it does get tough. So we look for industry professionals with the technical expertise. That's where we get our faculty from. Any other questions?
Okay, I've got a couple questions for you. And one of the points I want to make is that the folks in Ashland have been talking about Ranken for the last 6 or 7 years. But I think that tonight, when people go home and turn on the news and see that the governor was in Ashland today, they're going to be hearing for the first time that Ranken Technical College is coming to mid-Missouri. And the point of me telling you that is that if you are a business owner or if you're a parent that maybe feels like you're getting to the party late, you're not. There is still plenty of time to have some influence on the curriculum. There's still plenty of time to make requests about the type of training that you need. So I would encourage you to just contact either the school district or a member of the executive committee, and we can certainly help. I am pleased with the amount of awareness that is growing in the Mid-Missouri community. I was in a restaurant in downtown Columbia chatting with the owner of the restaurant somewhat recently, and I was talking to him about his background, and he said that he had gone through the auto mechanic program at Ranken, and so my eyes kind of popped open, and I perked up, and so we had a great conversation about Ranken. Last night, Chris Feltley and I were on the Eagle talking about Ranken, and a gentleman called in, and he goes, "I am so thrilled to hear that Ranken is coming to Mid-Missouri. When my father got out of the war, World War II, he went to Ranken, and he had a very successful career and provided very well for his family." So it's nice to see, this 100+ year history of Ranken and how that sort of manifests itself. And so there's a great tradition. 2 weeks ago, I was in the grocery store and walking down the aisle, and I saw a woman wearing a Ranken t-shirt. And so I got all excited and I said, "Oh, did you go to Ranken?" And she goes, "What?" I said, "Did you go to Ranken?" And she looked at me again, and I said, "Your shirt." And she goes, "Oh, I got that at a yard sale." So anyway, so I had to tell her why I was being a creep. So a quick question for you is, you guys recently had a job fair. I think, would you share the details of that job fair in terms of companies that came and students? Because I think this gives people some insight to that 98% placement rate.
So I encourage everybody to wear their Ranken shirts everywhere. So again, if you have a chance to pick up one of those at the yard sale, great. We love that. We encourage that. So we do. We typically have in fact, we have job fairs at all of our locations: St. Louis, Perryville, and of course Wentzville, and of course Ashland, right, soon. And I will tell you, the job fair specifically is to allow, again, industry employers to connect with our students and our graduates. So we only open it up to Ranken graduates and Ranken students. We typically, in fact, it was virtually the last couple of times because of the pandemic and all that, but this last, I guess 2 weeks ago, we actually were able to have it in person. And we had about 380 companies show up. And I will tell you, we typically have about 400, 500 companies show up. So they were happy to be back. The problem is that there's not enough graduates. So typically on average, that ends up being about 7 to 8 job opportunities per graduate. Again, the problem right now that we're seeing, if there's two things that keep me awake at night, right? Of course, one, and it's quality of education. We've got to have quality of education. That's very, very important. If you don't have quality of education, you don't have anything. But the second one is what I call enrollment. And I define enrollment as recruitment and retention. And the recruitment piece is what keeps me awake at night, not simply because, I want more students to service, which of course I do, but keep in mind, we're private non-for-profit. And for us to accomplish that mission, we have to keep our customer happy. And again, keep in mind that customer, yes, by all means, the student's our customer, paying to go to school there, right? But the secondary, if not the primary customer, is industry. And if we're not able to provide that pipeline to industry, then what? They're going to go someplace else. Or, what they're doing in the trucking industry, right? You can't find enough people that have a CDL, so they're creating trucks that drive themselves. And I don't blame the manufacturers for doing that, because that's the answer. If you can't find enough truck drivers, create automation, which is wonderful, and that scares some people. It's wonderful for Ranken because now our diesel mechanics not just have to know how to fix the engines, the transmissions and everything else with those rolling wonders, but now they have to fix the driver, right? Since the truck is its driver. So it just increases the skill that is necessary. So again, it highlights the fact that we need more people choosing to go into technical education.
All right, Garrett, did you hear that? 380 companies interviewing. If you can't get a welding job with 380 companies, it probably has more to do with your gene pool than anything else. So, I want to talk just a little bit about how we communicate with high school teachers and junior high teachers, because one of the things that we hear in the mid-Missouri community is that teachers are apprehensive to promote a vocational education because there's sort of this stigma that we're only successful if we have a high rate of conversion to four-year colleges. And so I would like to sort of get what advice would you give to teachers and to parents who maybe feel like their kids are not getting a message about the promises of a vocational education?
You know, Fred, you bring up a great point, and that point is this. I think most of us, you know, we raise our kids how we were raised, right? We find this with our faculty a lot. You know, with the faculty, they teach what they know, what they're comfortable with. So I get it. A lot of parents, you know, and a lot of teachers and a lot of counselors, they're only going to kind of point their kids in the direction that they're familiar with. And I totally respect that. Again, I'm all about making sure that everybody at Links is aware of the opportunities. And some of the programs that Chris was alluding to earlier, I mentioned the student opportunities, but we also have opportunities for teachers, counselors, superintendents to come to those workshops, to come to those events, to do some hands-on activities. We love hosting counselors and teachers and workshops and influencers, if you will, right? We love hosting influencers and letting them participate as well, so that they at least know what it's about, so they can see what the opportunity is, so they understand that, you know, a lot of the machine shops today, you can eat off the floor, right? Manufacturing, Fred said it best, it has this negative connotation where you're thinking of the old manufacturing. But today's manufacturing is automation, it's robotics, it's clean, it's healthy. It's not the manufacturing of yesterday. So we strongly encourage influencers to come visit us, participate. We'd love to work with the school to put on programs that get the teachers, counselors into those programs to at least give them that hands-on experience and let them know. In fact, in St. Louis, we bring a lot of quote unquote STEM, right? And I say STEM, and it was STEAM, and now I think it's STREAM. They continue to add letters to it, but ultimately every one of our programs at Ranken is STEM. Every one is technology oriented, every one of them. And it's what we've done in the past is we've brought science teachers, math teachers, we've brought them into the college and we've given them projects so that they can go back to their school and use these projects and implement them so they can teach those math, sciences, and those programs that are so very, very important, using technical education as the vehicle to do that.
Last question before lunch, and I want to encourage our panelists that are speaking on the next panel. There's 6 of you to go ahead and grab your lunch real quick so you get a head start on everybody else. I would like to sort of get your thoughts on, as we look at our kids, we're starting to have these conversations in the 5th grade, which I think is important, but as a parent, as a teacher, typically are there signs, are there attributes that you basically see a student that may be particularly well adapted to a vocational education versus that traditional 4-year? It's no longer considered a failure. It's just finding a career, an educational program that is well suited for your particular style of learning. So how can you help parents and teachers identify kids that may have a very promising future in vocational education?
So, you know, the book answer I think everybody expects me to give is, oh, if they like working with their hands. And that's true, but that is really the easy answer. You know, if you have the kid that loves working with their hands, tearing things apart, putting them back together, yes. However, I'm going to tell you that we're much more inclusive than that. And what I mean by that is, again, try it, right? And again, it doesn't have to be oh, you go this route or 4-year university. I'm going to tell you, there's companies that we work with that take every one of their engineers and they send them through a program at Ranken. We've customized a program because they know that the ones that can do make the best engineers. You know, if you've had to take the engine apart, you're probably going to not put that bolt behind the firewall where you can't get it. So it doesn't have to be an either or. Now, particular attributes, I'm going to tell you this, that a lot of our students, you know, they'll say, oh my gosh, you had to get A pluses in math if you're going to go. That's not necessarily true for Ranken. And what we find is students are very successful at Ranken who were not as successful in the traditional education environment because we teach differently, because we're in the shop, because we're doing it hands-on. Again, we have the classroom. You have to, you know, safety and health, it has to be spent in the classroom. But again, every chance we get, we put the students into the shop, into the studio, into the lab. We get them working. Best case, using real world work, right? Students who may have been bored in high school, who may not have gotten the perfect 4.0, they flourish in that environment because guess what? They're interested. So really, it's our job to figure out what motivates these students as educators, to figure out what motivates these students and then get them motivated to do it. Realizing, again, you know, I realize that, for example, every one of our automotive students who thinks they want to turn a wrench when they start, they may not end up turning a wrench, right? But there's other opportunities, for example, the enterprise through a call center that requires automotive skills, right? They're still able to do it. Not every person that's going to swing a hammer right out of college is going to do that forever, but there's project management. There's other careers that blossom from knowing and doing those hands-on skills. So, you know, there is no magic window that I have that I can say, oh, you're going to be a perfect Ranken, you're going to be a perfect Ranken. Every time I've done that, I've been wrong, right? I mean, it's like you look at that student and say, oh my gosh, there's no, and then they just blossom and they're wonderful and they become a wonderful employee. And again, I would strongly encourage employers in industry to get involved early too, because ultimately company X's perfect employee is not going to be company Y's perfect employee. And if, just like, you know, how do you choose the student who's going to be perfect at technical education? Well, how do you choose that employee that's going to be a perfect employee for you, right? Well, you start out early, you mold, you figure out, you play a role in educating them, and then turn them into that perfect. And if they want to keep doing it, great. If not, then no harm, no foul. They've gone out and done something else, and they've got a great experience for it. So really, we're fit for everyone, Fred, everyone, especially for Garrett, though, and Weldon.
Very good. Let's give Don Polh a round of applause.